Hello, everyone. Um, Today we are going to talk about simulacra and simulation. Um, I know this topic was in our syllabus for this course um, for week 6, if I'm not mistaken. And however, due to the changes, we just rolled over our weeks, but that's fine. You can use these video lectures whenever you want, however you want. I hope you are all doing fine. Um, this visual material shows New York, as you know, as you may know. And it purports, gives the idea that if we go to this corner, we will experience New York as such. Is that the case? If we go and stand on that corner, will we experience this sight as we see, as we perceive this visual? Of course not. But if you consider the case of children who are exposed to these visuals from birth, and as you know, these days children at the age of 0 start eating, drinking, pooping while watching or even having a bath uh, while being embezzled with such visuals. So in that sense, we have to question what's reality in today's world. Is it I is it something I write, I produce, I show myself as of myself? Is it something we see and experience? Or is it anything that is a copy of something else? As though we are reading the ideas proposed by Plato. So this Platonic conception, in other words, that the world of ideas. So what is the place of arts in today's world? We have started to see less and less what painters did or what sculptures did in the 15th century, in the 19th century, or even the 20th century, in the beginning of the 20th century. We have moved into a rather more conceptual, rather more, well, if you may say so, creative, but less and less detached from reality sort of art. This visual you are seeing now is considered to be an artwork, and I do not object. But that is very different from the arts we followed previously, centuries ago. How do we sense the world then? With the help of our ears, our eyes, our fingers, our nose, our mouth? Well, these are our sensory organs. But we experience the world, we experience reality through representation. Representations are not out there. It's not a cell phone, it's not a pencil, it's not a pencil case, it's not some coffee, but it is, uh, or they are, culturally and socially as well as ideologically constructed um, beings or entities. Representations in that sense are not innocent because they are culturally and socially and ideologically constructed. For instance, um, you can say a lot about this pencil case uh, if you consider a 47-year-old professor is using it, or this coffee maker will tell you something about myself, or my cell phone, okay? This, whatever the name of the company who produced it, whatever that model is. Interestingly, children learn about animals, plants, wars, and even sex even before they actually see or experience these in nature or in society. And this perception of reality by children is mainly due to the various media that bombard individuals daily. In cultural studies, we use the term politics of representation to suggest that many representations are arbitrarily constructed, and such representations are arbitrarily consumed by us. In short, each representation is problematic, for it involves multiple layers of meaning purported by the producers as well as the consumers. What do you see in these two visuals? Well, each visual shows a dog. The one on the left may suggest, however, a playful, happy, in-nature dog. But the one on the right shows a stray dog, right? Most probably a mother who lost her puppies, uh, who is starving, who is miserable. So these visuals represent not only dogs, but different social realities. Social realities not only of dogs, but also human beings. So visuals in today's world are not innocent. They bombard us with various elements, ideological elements, and we bombard the external reality by taking them, producing them, reproducing them, and sharing them. So for Stuart Hall, we have the sign, like that dog, the picture of that dog, visual of the dog, and we have power relations, various sorts of power relations. For instance, if you consider those visuals which showed dogs, you may also think about how these or such dogs are consumed by the Chinese in China as food. Or in the United States, a stray dog is kept for like a couple weeks or so, and then if no one picks them up, they are killed. So power relations make us give meaning to these signs. In that sense, visuals, words, and we will see literary texts are not innocent pieces. They are signs. And because of power relations, they are attributed meanings. Hyperreality is a postmodern term. Hyperreality, especially used by Jameson and Baudrillard, refers to the artificial productions of real life through flow of images that serve as simulations. In such hyperreality, the distinction between the real and the representation collapses. TV and the internet are the world for many. That is to say, many people perceive what they see on TV as real. And when they go to nature, when they go and live in society, they feel frustrated because what is perceived by them as real occurs to them that it is not real. External reality in such a space is limited to the givens of these two producers of the hyperreal, TV and the internet in today's world. So simulacrum as a term is proposed by Baudrillard and Jameson, meaning an imitation or a copy without an original. So in the world of hyperreality, remember the first visual I showed, New York. So in the world of which doesn't exist, right? At no time in human history, New York looked like that. Impossible. So much light, so sharp, so well cut, fixed, clear. And even if that is reality, if you see that as real, consider that as real. If you go to that corner, you will smell. Apart from what you see, you will smell, you will hear, and that will change your consumption of reality as you perceive from that visual. So in the world of hyperreality, a simulation becomes more real than real. So at that point you say, well, wait a second, this is not New York, or this is not how it's supposed to be, right? Um, and I think simulacra should be studied very carefully because um, this difference between hyper reality and reality may cause frustration in individuals, may cause unhappiness, and we need much research on that. And the world of simulacra, in that sense, is the central future of contemporary postmodern culture. For Baudrillard, the simulacrum is never what hides the truth. So do not assume that, simulacrum, what a TV shows, hides the truth. No, it is the truth that hides that there is none. The simulacrum is true. A visual depiction of Baudrillard's thesis may show that we start on the left, sacramental order, that, like maybe 200 years ago, right? We human beings believe that the image, right, contained reality. A photo showed reality. Stop the time and gave you a chance to explore and experience that reality. And it was considered to be good representation. Then we have tainted image, that is to say, poor representation. Then masking image, representation that hides reality. But today we talk about simulation, a baseless image, which is simulacrum. And it is a representation divorced, cut off from reality. So this reality is nothing but mere hallucination. The real, unreal, the public, private, and art and reality are all broken down. It appears as though it's a black hole in which we experience reality. This loss of reality has created a stronger reality that one can hardly reject or question, for it comes with numerous proofs. Researchers, professionals, psychologists, teachers, friends, who consume, create, and recreate and tell you about the world that is not real. You can think about realities created by Hollywood and Disney. Now, if you look at Hollywood's New York, it's full of gangs, terrible boys, terrible girls, hookers, drugs, alcohol, loveless world, careless families, stuck teenagers, golden-hearted whores who are trying to do something, be something, who are yearning, people who are yearning for a better life. Now, this is the reality of Hollywood most of the time, of New York. But in Disney's New York, there is order, there is perfection, there is the state, everything is in control. But because of an evil person or being, a state supported, most of the time, healer or hero comes and saves. That is the reality created by Disney. Socially speaking, Baudrillard notes that the era of the code, so these are all codes, right, begins to penetrate the whole of the social fabric. One of the symptoms of this is that opposites begin to collapse and everything becomes undecidable. The beautiful and the ugly in fashion, the left and the right in politics, the true and the false in the media, the useful and the useless at the level of objects, nature, and culture, all these become interchangeable in the era of reproduction and simulation. So you see that opposites have begun to collapse, to dissolve. Opposites are becoming united. And everything is becoming undecidable. Who is who? What is what? So Baudrillard's words on simulacra may tell us something about this case. It is no longer a question of a false representation of reality, that is to say, ideology, but of concealing that fact that the real is no longer real. So let's move to how these ideas relate to literary analysis. With his semiotic writings on the object, Baudrillard, now following Saussure and the structuralists, endeavors to show that no object exists in isolation from others. Instead, their differential or relational aspect becomes crucial in understanding them. So one idea that springs up at the moment of reading these lines might be the fact that oftentimes we study literature, we analyze literature only as literature, as a literary text, nothing more. But is that so? Is a literary text, especially those who are written in the 20th and the 21st centuries, are these literary texts detached from other science systems? When we study, for instance, illnesses, when we study peoples, when we study rocks, do we detach them from other science systems or objects or natural systems? So one thing that comes to my idea is that literature or a literary text, at least, uh, does not exist in isolation. It is relational. It is tied to other realities. So read this quickly, and I will talk about it. So the last line here is the butt of the joke. The practice of what we call historically literature not only exists in its relationship with non-literary and symbolic phenomena, but depends as well on parallel discursive formations. Okay, so we can interpret that it is not only the fact that literature exists in relationship with other non-literary and symbolic beings or entities, but also literature depends on them and various discourses that formulate them, that shape them. That is to say, a literary text cannot make much meaning unless you consider that literary text in its relation to other realities, media, the characters in real life. And we are not talking about biographical criticism, historical biographical or sociological criticism here. But it's a wider version of the study of ideology that the author creates and recreates while watching the TV, while searching on the internet, while being stuck at home during coronavirus lockdowns. So these are the references I used. I just wanted to give you some brief information about simulacra and representation. You can further your readings by reading the works by Baudrillard, of course. Um, Here, Mambrol's and Talon's and Josiah's work are also fascinating. And of course, our love, Stuart Hall. He's the guy. So take care, enjoy, remain safe and healthy. Bye bye.